Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is my review of Luke Cage, which is a great series on Netflix. So far, they've done two seasons, and there is talk that there's going to be a season 3, and I hope it is, because I have become a huge fan of this show. And shout out to my boy Corwin Armstrong, because me and him had this conversation, and he said that I should still do a video, even though it's been around for a while, but he said he definitely thinking that I should review this show, and I couldn't agree more, because I'm a huge fan. I'm still watching it over and over again because I just love the cinematography. I love the artistry. I love the acting. I love the action. I mean, this Luke Cage literally got me on the edge of my seat. So I'm really waiting expeditiously for season 3 because it's a great show. But just to sum up what this series is about, it's about this character Luke Cage, who's played by Mike Coulter. He's pretty much is a vigilante in a hoodie who's fighting crime in Harlem, and we see in the first season, you know, how he ended up getting his power, you know, some of the things he had to go through, and what actually made him start fighting crime. We come to find out that his original name is Carl Lucas, and we come to find out that he was sent to prison at this privatized jail called Seagate, where, you know, he deals with this racist warden who has him pretty much, you know, fighting, you know, as pretty much like a what they call him, you know, pretty much he was a fighter. But, you know, the warden was placing bets and making money off of them. And also in jail, we meet 2 other characters that definitely, you know, make, you know, current appearances throughout the show. One of them is Hernan Shades Alvarez, and the other one is Darius, aka Comanche, who are working with the warden. And there's a scene where, you know, they both try to attack him, but he fights them off and kicks their asses. But then later on, once he was, you know, he connected with one of the prisoners, and he was talking about that he was going to expose what the warden was doing, and they pretty much damn near beat him to death, where, you know, he ends up getting treated by this doctor. And later on he finds out that there's this the psychiatrist at the jail, Reva, you know, he builds this very strong connection to her because she offers this sweet and tenderness. But then again, you know, Luke is very sharp, he's very intelligent, so she was definitely drawn to him. But later on he finds out that he was marked for this experiment, and a lot of prisoners were on it because they wanted to get time off their sentence, but a lot of these prisoners died during the experiment. And it turns out Luke was the only one that made it, because here it is, he was injured, he was in this like incubator, which was like underwater. The warden comes in there with a gun and pretty much, you know, turns up, you know, the temperature on it, you know, trying to kill him. But then again, what ends up happening is that the machine explodes, and here it is, Luke Cage is born. He has superpowers, he escapes Seagate, and he ends up setting up shop with this man named Pops, who's this owner of this barbershop. And Pops is pretty much loved by everybody in the community, and in his barbershop, it's Switzerland, meaning it's peaceful, you know, it's family, it's togetherness, it's a safe haven for people who can be either sucked in by the streets or from the negative elements, you know, within the streets. You know, he pretty much used the barbershop as a place where, you know, young people can come and be inspired to be somebody. And we also learned a little bit about Pops, that Pops at one point used to be a gangbanger, and he worked along two guys. One was Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes, who's played by Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali. Loved him in Moonlight, and also in Roxanne when he played Cross. Did a phenomenal job, and he did a phenomenal job in this series too. And then the other one, I think, the other guy, I think his name is Hernandez. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But he has a son, Chico, And Chico is the spark that starts everything. Because what ends up happening is that Chico, along with this guy, what was his name? I think his name was Darius, who actually worked for Cottonmouth. Him, along with a friend of his, what's the name of the other dude? It was a guy that was a friend of his. I think his name was Sheesh or something like that. But they pretty much, what ends up happening is that, Cottonmouth actually runs this big, arms dealership where it's high artillery guns that he sells, on the black market. And when it came down to the sale, they pretty much ambushed, everyone, and they killed, the people there. And the three of them were left with the money. But then Darius pretty much was like, rejecting the fact that, look what the fuck we've done. We killed innocent people, and this shit was not supposed to go like this. And, then oh boy kills Darius, but Darius ends up shooting out the Cottonmouth that the two of them were, that Chico and the other boy end up splitting the money two ways, and they parted ways with it. So Chico was like hiding in some raggedy hotel with damn near $250,000, and then the other half went to the other guy. And it was just crazy as hell, because my whole thing is that if you do some shit like that, why would you stay in town? So that shows right there that they were literally dumb, and they were just so hungry for money that here it is, they did this heist, but didn't have enough sense to get the hell out of town, and that there was going to be some consequences and repercussions because you robbed a crime boss. Now, Cornell was definitely a ruthless motherfucker, but he was smooth. But what ended up happening is that, he puts out a hit to find these dudes that robbed him, because this definitely upsets his upline, which was this guy named Diamondback, and we later find out who Diamondback actually is. So he shins his second in command, who is Hernan Shades Alvarez. And I like Shades' character. He's played by Theo Rossi. I like Shades' character because Shades was always in the middle of everything, but he operated behind the scenes, and he was definitely a shrewd player, a shrewd manipulator, and a shrewd strategist. And he was just always on top of shit. He was very sharp. And pretty much he actually confronts Cottonmouth because of the robbery, and he was saying that, you need to make this shit right because Diamondback is not happy with this shit. So they find one of the guys. This fool is spending the money on strippers and shit. Cottonmouth finds this dude and beats him to death with his bare hands. So we see that, he has this very, swag. He wears suits, very clean. He pretty much runs this club called Harlem's Paradise, which is like a big, epicenter for the Harlem community. Everybody parties there. They have, acts like, KRS-One and the Delphonics performing there, Raphael Sadiq, and it's pretty much like, one of the centers in Harlem where everybody comes to drink and have a good time. And here it is, he beats this dude to death, and they have trouble finding Chico, and it's because Luke Cage got to him first, because we come to find out that one of the guys that Pops used to run with, Chico was his son, and he promised that he would not let Chico go down the same road as his father, because his father ended up getting killed, and his father was after they disbanded, his father became a drug addict. And here it is, Chico definitely has a lot of anger and resentment because his father wasn't there for him. But here it is, Pop was like a father to him, and Pop, was mad as hell because he got himself into some shit. So Pop was trying to get him out of it, and due to the fact that him and Cornell had history, even though they didn't see eye to eye, Cornell always had Pop's back. So they were gonna set something up where, where Cottonmouth and Pops were gonna meet, and they were gonna settle the beef, and they was gonna get Chico out of town. But what happened is that a person in the barbershop named Turk, who's this real shady motherfucker, he sees Chico and he alerts one of Cornell's men named dang, I just had his name on the top of my head, but dang, what was his name? Tone, I think. And if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. So he alerts his right hand man that he saw old boy at the barbershop. But instead of him letting Cornell know about it, he takes it upon himself to go shoot up the damn barbershop, kills Pops, and injures Chico, and almost killed the kid. And Luke Cage was there, and he protected the little boy. So the whole place gets shot up. And, you know, Pops ends up dying, and this is what starts him to become the vigilante, because he wants to avenge Pop's death and get all the players that had a hand in doing this. And then we also see that, you know, and we also come to find out that not only does Luke Cage work at the barbershop, he also works as a dishwasher at Harlem's Paradise. And we see that because one of his men didn't show up, you know, one of the guys that was part of the robbery, he was a bartender at Harlem's Paradise. He goes to cover his shift, and that's where he meets Misty Knight. You know, and him and Misty have immediate chemistry. They were both very shady and very shrewd with each other, but they had a connection. And the next thing you know, they ended up going out for coffee afterwards. Coffee meaning sex. So him and Misty definitely got it in. And she kind of told him at first that she was a night auditor, which was a damn lie. She's actually a detective. And she has a partner named Scarf. And later on, he does find out about her, once Chico is a person of interest. That's when he later finds out that she's actually a detective. But she's a very good detective because she has this special power where she can visualize a crime scene. She can put all the pieces together, and at times she can land a conviction, but because of some of the people that she lands, she can never make it stick. But, you know, she's definitely good at what she does, and she's great at putting things together like a puzzle. And she's sharp with it. And we see that at first, her and Luke Cage don't see eye to eye. You know, she doesn't trust him because here it is, he's kind of stepping in front of the police situation. But really, he's helping the police, shut certain things down. But then again, it's also causing problems too, because you deal with one problem, another one arises. But we see that Misty, has that gift. And even though they had that one night stand, they end up becoming good friends later on. And she knows that Luke Cage is innocent because everybody was pointing the finger at Luke Cage on everything. Even when it came down to Cottonmouth, because due to the fact that Cottonmouth's man, Tone, shot up the barbershop, he was ready to seek revenge on Cottonmouth and his whole operation, because he feels that they were responsible for Pop's death. But what really happened is that Tone acted alone and decided to shoot up that shop. That was not Cottonmouth's call. And when Cottonmouth found out about it, and then found out that Turk was the whistleblower, he literally throws Tone off of the roof of Harlem's Paradise, and he literally fell to his death. So we really see, and then we saw that Cottonmouth got emotional, so he really did care about Pops. But there was still all of this tension between him and Luke Cage, because Luke Cage was like, I'm going to shut you down. And he says that, yeah, you may not have individually caused Pop's death, but your criminal element is what is at the root of why this happened to him. And we see that him and Cottonmouth go back and forth, and we see that Cottonmouth is a man that's about reputation and a man that's about his honor. And due to the fact that Luke Cage ends up shutting down one of his, shuts down some of his money houses, and even this big one called Crispus Attucks that's actually run by Cottonmouth's cousin Mariah, that's played by Academy Award nominated, Emmy Award winning actress Alfre Woodard. And that damn Mariah was a damn trip. I mean, because at first she's like a politician, she's a councilwoman, she's all about having a perfect image. But we see later on that Mariah has a ruthless side. especially after she, after she kills her cousin Cottonmouth, you know, and it's crazy. But we first see that Mariah's a player. She pretty much takes Cornell's money and she kind of flips it and makes it good money, and that's pretty much one of the things she does with her cousin. But here it is, she's trying to keep up this good image of being the councilwoman. She wants to keep a clean image, but then Cornell was making moves that was kind of sidetracking her because, Cornell was dead set on getting Luke Cage. And then we also see that Luke Cage, he actually, he lives on top of this Chinese restaurant, and he rents from this Chinese couple. And we see that the Chinese lady don't be playing when it comes to her rent, but she actually likes Luke Cage, because Luke Cage is actually a good guy. And then we see in a scene that after Luke Cage had hit up his drug houses and stuff because of all the damage, we also meet another character who plays chess, but he's played by I think his name is Robert Caesar, because he's on This Is Us as well. He's known to play chess, and that's how him and Pops knew each other. And every time you saw him in the barbershop, he was playing chess, and he was definitely a sharp thinker. But he pretty much did the books for Pops, and he knew that in order to get the restaurant, not the restaurant, but in order to get the barbershop up and running, they were going to need money. So Luke Cage takes it upon himself to raid, all of the storehouses where Cottonmouth and Mariah were stashing their money. And the biggest one was Crispus Attucks, which was literally like the Fort Knox of Harlem. He goes in there, fights off all of the guards and stuff, ends up taking one of the bags of money, wrecks the place, and therefore leaves it open. That's the only time he took money. All the other places, he just ransacked them and opened the safe. So here it is, Cottonmouth is losing a lot of money because of Luke Cage. This pisses him off, and he wants Luke Cage's head on a silver platter. And it just gets to the point where Cottonmouth is going to try to take down Luke Cage one way or the other. And we see there's a scene where he's at the restaurant with the Chinese couple, and he's, he pays her money back or whatever, for her back rent. And then we see that he shoots a rocket inside the damn restaurant. And here it is, the old lady, her leg gets hurt, but he protected her, so therefore she was still alive, and he literally climbs out of the wreckage. So therefore we see that Cottonmouth becomes dead set on taking down Luke Cage, and we later on see that Shades tells him about Luke Cage because he knows who Luke Cage really is because he was in jail with him. And then we see that Cottonmouth tries to use that against Luke Cage, saying that you my muscle now, and if you don't play my game, I'm gonna ruin everything and send your ass back to prison, because he did escape Seagate, so he's pretty much a fugitive, and that's where Carl Lucas died and Luke Cage was born. And Cottonmouth found out the truth about him, so he tried to use that against him. But then we see later on, we even get like a backstory of Cornell, and we come to find out that Cornell Cottonmouth really is this great musician, but was kind of forced to live a life of crime, while his cousin Mariah was actually sent to boarding school and got the best education, but he was a child prodigy. And his uncle Pete was like his biggest fan and was the one who was helping him to get auditions and stuff. But Mama Mabel, their grandmother, wanted him to be a crime boss, and she was dead serious about it. And we come to find out that Cottonmouth actually lets Mama Mabel know, and Mama Mabel is actually played by LaTanya Richardson, who's also the wife of Samuel L. Jackson, a great actress. We see that he lets his grandmother know that Pete's been doing some business with the Latin community, and this pisses her off because, one, she knew nothing about it, but it was obvious that he was making the deal and he was going to be reaping the profits from that, but Mom Mabel pretty much had a very big clientele with the black and the white community because she was running a whorehouse. She ran, liquor. She did all kind of shit. I mean, that was the Stokes way. They were like a real crime family that pretty much built, an empire, starting with their grandmother. And when she gets wind of Pete's shit, she uses Cornell to shoot him, and Cornell regrets killing Pete because Pete was the only person that had his back. But then he's hearing Mom Mabel because he betrayed her, but then also Mariah because he had actually raped Mariah. But then again, we later come to find out that Mariah was a girl who had low self-esteem because she was a dark girl and, she was picked on and she pretty much didn't feel like she was pretty. And here it is, Pete always told her that she was beautiful. So of course, she always wanted to impress her uncle because he made her feel beautiful. But then it definitely went left when he started coming in her room and he was sexually violating her. And definitely there's something that came out of that we end up seeing in season 2. And I'm going to get to that. But pretty much Cornell, being a little kid, he remembered it differently. And pretty much kind of, him and Mariah end up getting into it over Luke Cage and all of that. And pretty much he kind of told her that, I never wanted this shit. I wanted to be somebody. I could have did something with my life. But Mom Mabel was always trying to make me be about the streets. And she only wanted you to be somebody. Who did she send to that rich ass boarding school? You. But she said she sent me there to keep me away from Pete. And then she said you killing Pete was good because he was actually, he was disloyal to our family and all that. But then he lets her know, no bitch. I saw how you used to flirt with Uncle Pete when I was little. You wanted it and you knew it. And she flips the fuck out, pushes him out of the window, and then takes a mic stand and literally bludgeons her cousin to death. And Shades finds out. And Shades, we come to find out, has always been obsessed with Mariah, even back in the day, because the Stokes family was well known. And definitely, Mama Mabel wasn't going to approve of that because she wasn't going to let she wasn't going to let Mariah date, this, Puerto Rican boy. But Shades was always fascinated by Mariah, and he actually helps Mariah clean up the scene, and they use the gloves in the dishwasher to say that Luke Cage killed Cornell. So here it is, everybody's after Luke Cage because they think he killed this crime boss. And even the one witness, they paid her off to say it was Luke Cage, even though she knows that Luke Cage was innocent. And later they get to the bottom of that. But the funny thing about it is that after, Cornell's dead, another enemy shows up, and it's Diamondback, who Cornell was doing business with. And we come to find out that Diamondback has an even bigger connection to Luke Cage than we thought. We later on find out that Diamondback is actually Luke Cage's half-brother. He's 2 years older than him, and we come to find out that their father was a pastor, but the father was messy as hell because he ends up having his first child by his secretary, who was Willis's mother, and then he ends up, 2 years later, he ends up having a child with his wife, which was Luke Cage. And Luke Cage was considered the miracle baby. He got all the attention and definitely got the backing of his father. But the funny thing about it, Willis and Luke Cage grew up best friends. Willis always knew that Luke was his brother, but Luke had no idea because all this stuff was kind of kept under the rug and it was never talked about. And as a matter of fact, Willis's mother was given hush money, by the pastor to keep it quiet. But what ends up happening, which actually made Diamondback an evil bastard, was that when they were teenagers, they stole a car or whatever, and he was saying that I like Prince, but Luke Cage or whatever, he liked Michael. So we was fighting about this shit. Then we get caught by the police. But when it came down to it, the Reverend stepped up for Carl Lucas. And because of that, he got sent to military school where Willis, who didn't have the family name, he had the last name Stryker, where the family name was Lucas. And pretty much Willis got the book thrown at him. He got sent to juvie. He got jumped the first time he was in there. Then he started to, fight back, and he ended up killing somebody who was trying to hurt him. So he literally grew up in this hard knock life, and while he was in jail, the money stopped coming to his mother, and his mother ended up dying alone in a shelter. So he has all this anger, but his anger is not only built on hurts from the past, is even furthermore misguided, because he's taking it out on the whole world, especially his brother. And his brother was born into the situation. He had nothing to do with it. His real anger was towards his father, but he took it out on Luke. And I just thought this shit was crazy. But I have to say, the guy who played Diamondback, Eric Leroy Harvey, this is a phenomenal actor, because he was playing that role, because he was charismatic like a preacher, but was evil as hell. He's like taunting, Luke Cage, like, Carl, come out and play. I was rolling like shit, like, can you dig it? I was like, this dude is a trip. And he was just so sinister. Like, this dude was killing police officers. He killed the councilman. He was doing everything he could to set up Luke Cage. And at first the police were buying it, but Misty, knowing Luke Cage, knew it wasn't him. And as a matter of fact, he had actually shot, Misty, when she confronted him at the Hollywood at Harlem's Paradise, and she ends up getting injured, in her arm, where she lost a lot of blood, and because she didn't get it treated, fully, she ended up losing her arm. So by season 2, she actually lost her right arm, and she was a righty. So, and then also we see that, Misty also was a known legend on the basketball court as well. So she was definitely a sharp person, but we even see that, she had a situation where Diamondback had her gun and literally pretty much was playing with her life and was very sinister with it. And we see that it made her so mad that when she went back to the precinct to meet Claire, who is played by Rosario Dawson, and she's pretty much a nurse, and she definitely not only is a good fighter, but she's also a very good strategist, and she's usually that person that supports Luke Cage throughout his quest of being a hero and how he can use his powers for good. Well, she was there being questioned by Misty, and Misty was mad because she wasn't giving her answers, and she starts getting rough with her. So of course she gets sat down and ends up having to see the therapist of the department. But we see in the situation a lot is revealed about Misty, about her being in control and about her, being the head. And when in that situation, Diamondback made her feel small and he took her control from her, so she lashed out on Claire in response to that because she wanted to take her power back. And we see that Misty gets out of that. She crawls back up, and the lieutenant, and I like the lieutenant that the chief that came in. I didn't get her name, but I like how the way she had that sharp look on her face, like she was not to be messed with. But she trusted Misty because she knew that Misty was a good detective and that she was very sharp. But yet, also we come to find out that her partner, Scarf, is actually a dirty cop, even though he trained Misty, and Misty looks up to him, kind of like a brother. They were very tight. But Scarf ends up finding Chico, murders Chico, and then tells Cottonmouth that, Luke Cage, he pretty much tells Cottonmouth about Luke Cage, lets him know where he lives at, and that's when he sent the rocket to blow up the Chinese restaurant. So we see that Scarf is in the middle of all of this shit, and then we see that after all of his houses, store places were busted, all of his money was in storage, was in police storage, as well as his guns. He makes a deal with Scarf to get all that stuff out, and they was gonna pay him, but then Scarf got greedy and wanted more money, and that's what caused Cottonmouth to shoot his ass. And we later see that he ends up breaking into the barbershop, and Luke Cage actually helps him. And he pretty much confesses to Luke Cage that he was behind all the bullshit. He was the one who killed Chico. He's been working with Cottonmouth. He's been on his payroll. And then there was another officer that was on his payroll too, which Misty finds out later. And we actually see that, they were on their way to the police station to make this confession. But Scarf ends up bleeding out and he ends up dying. And, Misty is devastated because this was her partner. And then we come to find out that Scarf had a son, and his son actually found his gun in the box, and there was no safety on it, and his son shot himself, and he became so depressed that it led him down a dark path. And Misty knows that's what led him down there, but because of Scarf's dirtiness and it becoming known to the police department, 30 of his cases that he got convictions, all of those people were released. One of them being this guy named Dontrell Cockroach Hamilton, who is this shitty motherfucker, and was beating on his girlfriend and his son, but he ends up getting part of the gun business because Mariah decides to sell it. He was one of the players. And actually the guy that played him, Dorian Missick, in real life is actually married to Simone Missick, who actually plays Misty Knight. So that was cool seeing husband and wife on in scenes with each other, and they're really great actors because they were playing off of each other's characters. So we definitely see that, where later on in season 2 we find out about, we actually get introduced to Cockroach's character. But yeah, we see towards the end of season 1, we also come to find out that Diamondback actually set up Carl Lucas to be in Seagate. So Luke was actually innocent the entire time. And we later see that Alvarez, Shades, actually has proof that he was innocent and that Diamondback set him up. And then we see that Diamondback pretty much marches to his own tune. He ends up getting Mariah on in because what ends up happening when she's there to discuss, now that Cornell was dead, she was now ahead of the operation. She goes to sit down with all the crime bosses. This crazy motherfucker, Willis, comes in there and kills the crime bosses. One was Haitian, the other was Jamaican, one was Cuban, and I think the other one was Asian. So he literally killed all the crime bosses, and Mariah just sat there and didn't flinch. So we starting to see more and more this evil side of Mariah. And then she even later on confesses that the reason why Cornell was constantly coming after me was because he knew that there was a more sinister side to me, and he wanted me to be fully about the dirty side of business instead of trying to be this squeaky image, because he knew that really wasn't me. That was what grandma shaped me to be, but that wasn't really who I was. Especially after she killed Cornell in cold blood, and Shades helps her to cover up the crime. But yeah, so we definitely saw that going on. But by the end of the season, he finally beats. The thing about it, what ends up happening is that Luke Cage is invincible until Diamondback comes and he shoots Luke Cage with what's called a Judas bullet, which actually penetrated him, and he actually bled for the first time. Normally bullets bounce off of him, but this time it didn't. So what they end up doing is that they end up finding the actual doctor that treated him at Seagate. They do this experiment where they put him in acid to actually loosen his skin, because his skin was so tight, anytime they took the scalpel will bend, because his skin was that tough. They couldn't even penetrate to get the scalpel out of the bullets, because the bullets would how it worked is that the bullets would penetrate him and then they would disperse. So he was in a lot of pain, and then ends up getting shot, like, not only once but twice by Willis Stryker, aka Diamondback. So they go and find the doctor. Claire actually has the data that the psychiatrist Reva had, and here it is, he was in love with Reva. And then later on he realizes that he was an experiment the entire time. But here it is, she played this genuine role in front of him, and he thought that she was there to save his life. And in a way she did save his life, but then again she was never fully honest with who she was. So they get all her information, which Claire has on the disc, and she kept it sacred because she knew this information, you know, was very vital and definitely could be dangerous if put in the wrong hands. One being the damn doctor, because the doctor had lost all of the information, but he knew the code, so they was able to get all the information, and they was able to, you know, work it out where they was able to get the scrapple out of him, and then his skin became more tougher because after they put him in acid, you know, now the Judas bullets don't even work on him no more. And then they pretty much confront the doctor because here it is, a lot of prisoners died due to that experiment, and you know, pretty much Luke wrecks his whole medical facility, which he set up in his barn, and he says, you're not going to be able to do this to anybody else ever again. And here it is, you know, he comes to find out that the whole time he was an experiment, that she was literally setting him up to be a part of the experiment, and that he was the best candidate. And it kind of broke him down because here it is, he thought that this woman really cared about him, but really he was just an experiment, and it broke him down. And then also broke him down because this doctor was literally testing all of these different prisoners, and a lot of the prisoners died because, you know, they didn't make it. And the thing about it, the same thing could have happened to him, but it just so happens he was lucky. Because you saw the warden, who was this racist bastard, turned up the temperature, and the explosion happened, which could have killed him, but yet it made him stronger. And that was another reason why Willis was mad, because he set him up to go to Seagate to literally get him killed, but he comes back with superpowers. So Willis is totally dead set on destroying his half-brother because he's so jealous and so vengeful, and his anger, again, is misguided. So towards the end of the season, he finally beats him, but then we come to find out that that same sinister-ass doctor was able to get all the information because Luke broke his computers too, but he was able to fix one of them, which still had the information, and then we see him working on Willis Stryker. So we definitely know Willis is coming back, and he's probably going to be just as strong and everything as Luke Cage. So here it is, the doctor is now trying to set up another person to go after Luke. And I'm like, see, that we knew damn well that they couldn't trust that doctor at all. And then we also saw that Misty finds out that there was a person who actually saw Mariah kill Cornell, which was this girl Candace, who worked at the Harlem's Paradise. We saw that Mariah paid her off, gave her $50,000, but then she felt guilty because she said it was Luke Cage, but Luke Cage has been nothing but good to her. So she finally tells she finally tells Misty the truth. Misty tries to hide her, but then we see there's another situation where they're all at the barbershop, Luke Cage, and then we see Mariah and Shades come in there because they want to work with him to shut down Diamondback, and in return they'll give him his freedom because they got information to show that he was innocent. And then Missy shows up, you know, to take down Mariah because Candace confessed to her that Mariah was the one who killed Cottonmouth, not Luke Cage. So then next thing you know, there's like this big bomb that comes through, and it's that damn Willis Stryker, and he's just dead set on taking them down. And you know, in this situation, both the evidence, you know, gets trapped, but then Missy loses her phone, which Shades picks up, and he acts as Misty to lure Candace out the apartment, and he kills Candace with the gun, you know, with pretty much the family gun, because the same gun killed Candace also killed Uncle Pete back in the day, and it was like a rare model, and it was something that they held precious because it's been in the family for generations. So we saw all that go down, but then we see towards the end they pretty much take him back to Seagate, but the chess player, I think his name was Cross, he ends up, finding it, so therefore he ends up getting exonerated, and they drop the charges, but still that stigma is still there. So by season 2, we start meeting some other characters, one of them being this guy named Piranha. And Piranha kind of reminded me of Diddy because he's got a lot of money, he's very extravagant, he has a big personality, he's funny, he's always dancing and feeling himself, and he's pretty much like, he's into insider trading, and he's this multimillionaire, and he actually grew up around Mariah, and Mariah pretty much helped put him through college and all of that. So he in turn says that he gave her some insider trading information, and he says that if you invest in me and I can make this work, and if you can get a big investor, which is this guy who owned this plastics company, and she blackmailed him to sign over his company, so they can get the deal. And with that being said, Mariah became this multi-millionaire with over $300 million in her account. She never had to worry about money or crime ever again. And we see also in Harlem's Paradise how the main picture in the office changed. When it was under Cornell, it was Biggie with the crown, pretty much representing the king of Harlem. Then once Mariah took it over, it became this picture of this infamous picture of Basquiat, which is worth millions, and we know definitely Basquiat is a legend in the art world. But then we also see later on there's another enemy that comes to surface, and his name is John MacIver, aka Bushmaster, who's originally from Kingston. He's Jamaican. He has a family restaurant in Brooklyn where his uncle and his aunt run, and he's after the Stokes family. And later on they show a backstory that their family, along with the Stokes family, were the ones who created the rum, as well as the nightclub. His ancestors, along with the Stokes, worked together as a team, but then the Stokes, end up betraying them and cut them out of everything. So therefore, even though they helped build it, Bushmaster's family wasn't getting everything. And here it was when we saw them in Kingston when he was little. They were working at the resort, as servants, while the Stokes family were vacationing. We see Mariah's chilling, Cornell's playing in the pool, and then we get a scene where Bushmaster's mother and Mabel, who's Mariah and Cornell's grandmother, were going back and forth about the business, and she ends up showing proof that both her father as well as Mabel's father were both owners, and they actually shared a 50-50 partnership. So they're going to have to share the sales from the club as well as from the liquor with their family. But instead of honoring that, they pretty much cause a fire which actually kills John MacIver's mother. And then later on, he also gets shot by Uncle Pete, which he gets taken to this holistic doctor who uses Nightshade to bring him back to life. So here it is, he's special, and this Nightshade gives him this incredible power and speed that he's unstoppable. And we actually also see that also in season 2, we also meet a new character, Tilda Johnson, who's actually Mariah's daughter, and she's also a holistic doctor, and she also ends up helping Bushmaster with Nightshade and all of that. And she even knew that Nightshade is very dangerous if used in large quantities, but she gave him what he asked for, and he ends up after a while builds somewhat of a kinship with her. But he's dead set on going after Mariah and destroying the Stokes family, because he feels that he has to avenge his mother and avenge his family for the fact that they were robbed. And here it is, he was robbed of his mother because of the Stokes. So he's dead set on revenge, And even though he has his uncle, I think it's his uncle, I think his name was Anansi, was trying to let him like realize that you cannot let this revenge blind you, and you can't live your life based off hurts from the past. But he was dead set. He was taking Mariah out. And we see also that this also brings him in clash with Luke Cage. And twice he beat Luke Cage's ass. Because he has this power that even Luke Cage had no idea of. But then later on he finds out how he got his power through Nightshade. And we also see that Bushmaster goes after everybody that's done business with Mariah. One of them being Cockroach, because he ends up beheading him. He beheads, the guy who was heading the Jamaican cartel, and he takes it over. He beheads, he finds, what's his face, Piranha, gets the information where he now has the ownership of the club as well as Mariah's money. Then he kills him. He also kills the guy who ends up selling his plastics company, and then he also kills one of Mariah's men on her team. So here it is, Mariah's got all this big money, and they advise her it would be great for your image to reconnect with your daughter. Now we come to find out the truth about her and her daughter's relationship. They have a very estranged relationship, and we see that when she was born, she was actually given to her cousin's family, who were the Johnsons, and they raised Tilda. But Tilda and Mariah have a very strained relationship. But Mariah goes to try to, mend fences with her, but only because it's going to help her image. But Tilda gives her another chance and lets her in. But later on, she starts seeing how shrewd and how manipulative she is. As a matter of fact, on the opening of this big clinic that's going to help the community. So we see that Mariah has good intentions, that she wants to help the community of Harlem, but she's willing to do any type of bad, shady shit to be at the helm of it. So when it came to the opening night of the clinic, she opens the door and it's all of these heads on stilts, and it's everybody that she did business with and did all the shadiness with. Bushmaster put on all display because his whole mission is to destroy Mariah. So then when he takes over, Harlem's Paradise, he takes down her Picasso and he puts up a picture of Marcus Garvey, Jamaica all day. Probably one of the best, strategists and revolutionaries of all time. So Marcus Garvey definitely is definitely one of the icons of Black history. And here it is, we see his mentality. He takes over the club and all of that, and then also they have this damn shady ass lawyer that is literally on their call, and he's all about the money, but he's shady, and he's kind of like the Johnny Cochran of Harlem, because he can get anybody off. And we see after, when Mariah lost that money, he changed up real quick. I'm no longer the attorney on this case, because every time they try to lock up Shades, because Shades got the right name, he's shady, he's very manipulative, and he never gives you what you want. He always dances with you. So here it is, he was always getting legal representation, and then one time after he had got locked up for the second time, the lawyer came in, but once he realized that Mariah had no more money, he kind of abandoned them and went with Bushmaster. So it shows you right there, he was all about the money. He was never about them, even though he represented the Stokes family for years. So later on, when she got the money back, she checked the lawyer and grabbed him by the nuts, saying that you better not ever, play with me again. And she says, I thought they called you Big Ken. I was like, oh shit. That part was funny, because she just straight embarrassed his ass. But she ends up getting back everything because she was put into duress, and it was not in that it had to be equal on both ends, and because of that, everything still belonged to Mariah. So she ends up getting back her club and all of that. We end up seeing that Bushmaster ends up getting this adrenaline shot of Nightshade given to him by Tilda. He goes in there and fucks everybody up and pretty much destroys the club, but then he ends up getting out of there. And usually after he gets his nightshade, his body usually is in bad shape afterwards. Especially when he puts himself in harm. Like when he gets shot, bullets don't kill him, but they get stuck in him. But he has to get nightshade in order for him to get back to normal. And he can take a lot of nightshade because he's special. And we see later on that he does everything he can to still take down Mariah, but then, his last attempt drained him so bad, especially once, because what ends up happening also is that Shades finds out about his family's restaurant. They kidnap the uncle as leverage to get back at Bushmaster, but Mariah takes it a step further. They go to the damn restaurant and they kill everybody, innocent people, and they also kill his uncle by burning him alive. And then she ends up shooting him with the family gun. So this is where Shades starts to look at Mariah in a different way. And then we also see in season 2 that Shades, along with Comanche, the guy that was in prison with him in season 1, he's now out of prison and he begins to work with Shades, but also he's working with the police chief. I think his name was Richard. What was his last name? I think it's Ridenhour, I think. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but he's the new police chief after the lady left, and he was working a deal with Comanche that Comanche was going to hand over Mariah and he would get immunity, but then he was also working for Shades to get immunity too. And then we also find out that Shades and Comanche's relationship was a lot deeper than we realized. We also find out that they were childhood friends and they grew up together. Him being the Puerto Rican in the black community, people picked on him, and he was always taunted by bullies, but Comanche had his back and protected him. So they were best friends ever since they were kids. They also served in prison with each other, but we come to find out there was kind of like a little Brokeback situation with the two of them. And once Shades finds out that Darius is working with the police chief, out of panic, Darius kills the police chief, but then Shades ends up killing Comanche, his best friend, because he went to the feds and he snitched. But in that, he was trying to take down Mariah. So here it is, in the name of Mariah, he killed his best friend. Somebody that had his back and somebody that he loved. He ended up killing him. But then later on, him and Mariah clash. Mariah throws that shit up in his face like, man, you ain't been the same since that damn snitch died. Yeah, Comanche, you didn't think I noticed those looks he gave me? All that heat? So what was y'all gay for the stay? Or did you have a real Brokeback romance? I was over it. I was like this. But the thing about it, Mariah, she really went by the name Mariah Dillard because she ended up marrying this man who she claimed was Tilda's father, but actually the guy was gay. And we come to find out also that Tilda's father was actually Uncle Pete. So she was a product of incest. And then we see that Mariah ends up telling Tilda that I never, the reason why, because she finds out that, she asks her, did she kill Cornell? Because Cornell was really nice to her, and she liked Cornell, and just like Cornell, she also has that child prodigy musical talent gift. So when she confronts Mariah that she killed Cornell, she says, yeah, I had to. Because he was wrong. He told me that I wanted it. I never wanted it, and I never wanted you. I tried to love you, but I don't, so sorry. And it's like she realizes that her coming to her was only for her own selfish reasons. She didn't give a damn about her daughter. So after that, her daughter was team, I'ma shut her ass down. And she also works with Bushmaster to go after her mother. And he makes an attempt, but, he messes up the club and all of that. But him and Luke Cage get into a fight, and eventually, Bushmaster ends up leaving. But after having all that nightshade, he's in very bad shape. But then he connects with Tilda and saying that she is a cancer and you have to get rid of her. There is no other way. There's no reasoning with her. There's no negotiation. You have to kill it, and you have to kill it now. So Tilda knows that the only way Mariah is going to be stopped is that she's going to have to die. So we see that definitely spurns something in her, and especially when she finds out that Mariah killed his entire family, in cold blood. But we see that one person survived, which was Bushmaster's aunt. She actually survived, and Luke Cage actually helps her get away. There was at one point Shades got to her, and Shades was going to kill her, but he chose not to, and Luke Cage was able to get her to safety. But Shades was mad as hell at Mariah, and that's when he turned on her, and then he decided to tell the police everything involving Mariah. And after, when Bushmaster came in there and caused all that havoc, he turned over the family heirloom, which was that gun that killed Uncle Pete, that killed Candace, that also killed Anansi, Bushmaster's uncle. The bullets were, was traced to the gun. Shades ends up turning the gun over to Misty, and they finally arrest Mariah. So Mariah's in jail, and then from jail, Mariah is still running shit. She ends up, there was these Jamaican chicks that was actually trying to burn her up with gasoline. Then these two chicks come and they slit their throats. One of the girls actually knew her grandmother, but then she got real smart with Mariah's like, bitch, I ain't trying to help you. Like, bitch, your mother wasn't all that good to me, but yeah, you cut me in and you look after us, we got you. So then she asks for the blade. She slits old girl's throat and takes her two goons and makes them a part of her team. And then she starts making hits from her jail cell. So everybody that was a part of her team, to prevent them from talking, she had them all killed. Even this dude Alex, who really was like her right hand as far as her political career. But then we see that Alex got very deep and he started helping her with some of the sinister shit. And Alex was very reliable. But Tilda was even friends with him, and she liked Alex because she saw Alex was a good guy. But then once Alex got killed, that really pissed Tilda off. And then also knowing what she did at the restaurant in Brooklyn, a Bushmaster's family. So later on, we see towards the end, finally, Tilda and Mariah sit down and they have this conversation saying that they're going to try to make things right once she gets out of prison. And Tilda's like, you really think you're getting out of here, don't you? You are really that self-righteous that you think you're going to get out of jail after all you've done. So before she leaves, she gives her mother a kiss. But then we see later on she was making this potion. And we later on see that she goes to Harlem's Paradise to play on the piano. And she sings this song that it must come to an end. We had no idea what she was talking about. But then we later see that Luke Cage goes to see Mariah. And then while they were talking and everything, she starts spitting up blood. And she literally dies right there. And we come to see that the kiss that Tilda gave her, she put this holistic, creation on her lips. And Mariah, when she kissed her mother injected it. And it literally killed her just like that. So here it is. Tilda killed her own mother with the kiss of death. And we see she actually wipes it off because it looked like lipstick, but it was actually a potion she created. So she pretty much killed her mother. And in the will, because she said that she noticed that something wasn't right with Tilda, before she died, she set up a meeting with the lawyer, and she pretty much had the Harlem's Paradise that she said that will be given to Luke Cage. All her money would go to charity, and all she left Tilda was the piano that Cornell played on. But she gave Harlem's Paradise to Luke Cage, not because she liked him, but because she knew that it will change him, and it will take him, that he will literally become a crime boss versus being a hero. Because we even seen that, towards the end, there was like this kid who was kind of like the hype man. He was making all of this money, because Luke Cage had these sayings like "Sweet Christmas" and "Sweet Sister," and he was making shirts and was selling videos and stuff of Luke Cage. And even when Bushmaster kicked his ass, he was making money off of that too. So he was hustling, making all this money, but he was a big fan of Luke Cage until he realized that Luke Cage started working with the crime bosses. And then he was like, this place is always going to be Switzerland. So he says, what I'm going to do with my money that I've been making, I'm going to fucking buy the deed of the barbershop, and I'm going to build this thing up. And he says that you can come in for a cut, but that's it. Ain't going to be no shop talk, because this place is always going to be Switzerland, and now you are part of that other element. And we see that he actually looks good being the head of Harlem's Paradise, Luke Cage, but we see that it pushes him away from everybody that he's dealt with. He's no longer close to Claire. He pushes away Misty. So now he's literally become a part of that criminal world, and that's where it ends. So that's what I have, is because, you know, I just covered both seasons. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments, or certain things that stuck out for you as far as season 1 and season 2 of Luke Cage. I would love to hear about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with another, you know, review of, you know, because I'm definitely a big fan of Netflix. So until next time, everybody, take care.